All right, thank you for staying with us on Morning Spring. The conversation, as I said earlier, is about the back to school preparation, the resumption. For some, many parents, it's more or less, in parentheses, like a dreaded day or date, 16 or 17, depending on, the situation next week of this month is the back to school, especially for a brand new session. And you know what comes with it? Students, pupils needs to go back to school, preparations to be done, new fees being expected. Even if it's a government-owned institution, there are still preparations. But then the economic reality that we have found ourselves, especially this fuel hike, even before the fuel hike, in the last 1 year, 15 months, things have not been the same. The economic challenge has been really biting and hitting the people, especially because of the inflation, and things will never be the same again, it appears. But then in the last 1 week, 2 weeks, or a month, the prices of fuel, the price of pump for PMS has gone up, and it has affected transportation. Whatever affects transportation, affect the commerce, moving one product, from one end to another, goods and services from one end to another. And many parents are groaning. Some of them don't even know what to do. But then, just like I said, the angle of the parent on one side, how about the school as well? How are they coping? Many of them will be involved in renovations. Possibly the staff members are asking for increase in price as well. So it's an issue that affects everybody. I mean, in salary and their wages as well. So it's an issue that affects every one of us. So this morning we have been joined live in the studio by an educationist and, of course, let me add, a parent as well. And Mrs. Oyinkansola Omigbodun joins us live. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Good to see you again, by the way. So here we are. This is our reality. Many parents like myself, when you are having conversations, colleagues, even at work, and you are preparing, during the vacation, it looked so far. All of a sudden, it's like you are counting the minutes by your fingers. And the reason is not far-fetched, is because of the economic reality. How will you say, you're a parent yourself, and you're a school owner, you're an educationist, with what is happening? Or let me even ask, parents talking to you, speaking with you, rubbing minds with you, what would you say is going through their minds right now with people that you're talking with?
Well, there's a lot of uncertainty. That's the major thing. We do not know what to expect anymore. All of a sudden, we wake up and then there's a fuel price hike. There could be another one next week. There could be another one in the months to come. So the uncertainty is really the hugest challenge that everyone is facing at the moment. How do we plan? How do we forecast? How do we determine what prices in school of school fees and commodities will be? This is the major concern, uncertainty.
Uncertainty, and let's start from the point of the school. You're an educationist, because the uncertainty is not just on the part of the parent. You talked about the school as well, because many things are to be done, but parents might not want to see it from that part. But you, from that end, how uncertain? One, we say you're an experienced person, you already know what to do, but you are talking about the uncertainty and you can't even plan. How is that possible? For school owners as well.
It's very, very possible, because when you're going to resume a new term, you want to know how to ensure that your staff is motivated. You have to consider their salaries, you have to consider the prevailing situation in the economy, and how to ensure that you retain good staff. So one of the ways that it is quite uncertain for schools right now is that you cannot really predict how much your increment in salaries will affect positively your staff. Whatever increment you give to them may be infinitesimal, and it may be ridiculous to them. It may say, now that the fuel, the transport cost from my end is not more than triple the price. and you keep trying to meet up. It's a very, very difficult process to manage. And it makes this season especially hard for school owners.
It's definitely one that is affecting everybody. How to keep staff members motivated.
Yes.
I said something because I've seen some schools under renovation. Some of them want to make it look more attractive, and some of the complaints from students or pupils want to attend to it. But this is the reality that we are finding ourselves right now. So, and when you want to go through all these, one will say, who pays? Would the school be magnanimous to say, oh, let's handle it for now, and then we'll see how it will be in the coming days? Or is the parents that will just have to bear the challenging reality?
The fact is that the parents would have to bear most of the cost. The school too. The school may want to be magnanimous, but from which sources will they be magnanimous? It's a vicious cycle. If you decide, oh, okay, I wouldn't increase my fees, then that means that there's a limit to what you can do in the schools. You cannot do the renovations you want to do. You cannot advance certain aspects of your curriculum. You just have to keep to a particular level, and parents will not be satisfied with that. Parents want advancement. Parents want improvements,
right.
And so the parents will have to understand that everybody has to come to the table. Everybody would have to come to the table, to do their own part. But having said that, schools too must be careful how they put a lot of pressure on parents for finances. We must be considerate at this time. So it's a balancing act. Like I said, it's very challenging, but it's a balancing act that we must all work upon.
Right. It's good and charitable that you talked about balancing. But one will say, when the reality hits everyone, so a particular item that maybe sells for, could be gotten for maybe 10 naira this time last year.
Yeah.
Definitely, you might find it very hard to have it at 20 naira because that's doubled right now. But the income, parents are saying the income have not doubled.
Exactly.
These are the issues. So when you're magnanimous, either as a policy, as an institution, others might not, because you want to give the best to the children, the returning staff, not just the teaching staff, every other person, the logistics, the vehicles, the buses for school that run transportation.
Absolutely.
So when you come up with these things, maybe next week, maybe some schools have an idea of how much, parents have an idea they will be paying as well. What do you think will be the implication of these when the bill rises? Because the children will not only go to school, they eat. They need clothes on their body.
Yeah.
The parents have to pay for rent if actually they don't have their own house. Fuel have to be provided either by the school for transportation. So what will be the implication of this? Because many are muting the idea, maybe I may have to withdraw my child, from what a school I think is good for him or her to whatever is available. What does this do to our education?
Absolutely. Actually, what it does is that it affects every single sector, every aspect of education: transportation, uniforms, books, quality of teachers. It affects everything. And what would happen is that school owners will have to go back to the drawing table from time to time and review whatever it is that is on ground. If they find out that, we don't have enough children in the classrooms anymore, they may have to jack up their prices again further to be able to cope with the rising costs of staying in operation. I think it's like I said, it's a vicious cycle, and it has to be handled very, 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 very delicately at this time. And then, the general psyche of parents. More and more, we're seeing less and less children being enrolled at certain levels of school.
How do you mean?
Okay, because they're keeping them back at home. 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds, before 1-year-olds will be enrolled in school and all that. They're still being enrolled, but not as many as we used to see. Parents are preferring to, let me keep this child at home till she's 2 or 3, to save costs.
Right.
Yeah. And then I want you to consider something else too.
Yeah.
Schools, at the end of a session, would evaluate children and decide, your performance is not quite good enough. You need to take the class again.
Mm.
If you do that now, you are asking parents to come and pay, do you realize, pay another set of fees for the same class. What happens? They probably take that child out and take them to a school where they feel, okay, go and manage there.
Yeah.
So this affects the overall output, you know, and the quality of children we are educating and we are, you know, producing. You know, this withdrawing children from school, you know, some of them do all kinds of things nowadays. SS2, they're off to the university. There's pressure, but now the government says 18 years, perhaps maybe that would stop. But the truth is that for this year, there's going to be a little bit of a stampede. I'm sorry to digress.
Yeah, please.
Because people are trying to beat that 18-year entry. For this year, you're able to get in if you can. So there's this pressure to go and quickly write my UTME, quickly write my WAEC, get into school now before that policy swings, you know. And so the parents will sit down at home and say, okay, I can save money. I don't have to send, you don't have to go to school this term. Sit down at home, you know, do the external examinations. It's a whole, you know, complicated mess at the moment. And it has to be seriously addressed by stakeholders. We need to look at what we can do to ensure that we do not erode the quality of education that we have.
And exactly that's why we're having this program. What do we do?
What do we do?
Exactly. What exactly do we do? Because we are still battling with the over 20 million figure given as the out-of-school children in Nigeria. And many persons are saying that's a looming disaster. To have 20 million, that's a figure, official figure. Many children we don't even have an official and all-encompassing database that can give us an accurate. Because if the figure has been put at 20 million, logically you can know we have way more than that. And what is happening, the economic challenge that we are seeing. So a nation will not be proud to now add to that pool of the already out of school children. Insecurity is raging in especially in the northern part of the country. Some of the schools that have been affected, some parents who are farmers trying to fend for their children, you know, have been affected. We read out other figures this morning. The insecurity toll is there. Now the economic toll is there as well. So, and, you know, we've spoken to the private school part. How about the people in the government, you know, owned institutions as well? Because, okay, they might not be paying as high as what is obtainable at the private school. But then, how do you attend to their feeding? How do they, now, you know, my colleague and I were speaking on this program yesterday to say, what happens to the transportation? Because if a parent cannot bear the cost of transportation right now, you might have to ask the child either to trek. And what that do is the risk, again, of walking on the road with angry commuters. How do we just oppose this particular time? It's a vicious cycle. I agree, just like you have said.
Yeah, well, the public school sector, or every sector is affected. I mean, every sector. And what can we do? I can only ask that our governors be a little more proactive.
Governors?
Yes, in the sense that we are told that there's a huge allocation to states and all that. Can a substantial part of that allocation be dedicated to transportation, you know, subsidized transportation for everyone if we can? I don't know if that sounds very idealistic or so, but if we can intervene in that sector, you know, have more buses on the road for this season, it would help the children in schools. In the I know you have the United Kingdom. You'd get on the tube as a student. You do not pay, you know. So if it's just students in uniform that, you know, get on these buses and do not have to pay or pay a minimal amount, it will do a lot. It will do a huge lot. But if governors are not proactive at this time, we will keep, you know, circling the vicious vicious mood.
I think that's a very good one, because it's not business as usual.
No, it is not.
We must be strategic about these things. And only serious nations, every serious nation rather, will be interested in the education, because you are as good as the educational level of your country. And
let me say that the ripple effects, we may not see the total effects now, but in a matter of 2-3 years, you know, the policies we make now will impinge on the actual quality of graduates that we have. We would see it, you know. We would see whether we have done what is right or not in another few years when we see the quality of, you know, learners that we have produced. So it is very, very urgent. It's an urgent situation. If governors can swing in now, they can save the day to an extent. They can save the day. If we have an intervention in transportation for students in uniform, we're good to go.
Now, the resumption, you know, officially in most states have been put next week.
Yeah.
By the way, we're hearing Edo State and Kano State have possibly postponed their own because of transportation issues. And many persons are asking, why are you postponing? Is it like there is an end in sight that they are looking at? Okay, maybe things will have really... But then it's a very fantastic one, this proposition. But as of today is 12, if I'm not mistaken, or 13 day of September, we have not been hearing such an idea. So when does it come into place?
Well, we do not know yet.
Do you think our handlers across states, irrespective of political parties, are proactive enough because they know this is going to happen? The parents might not have a choice. They might have to hustle, the way we call it in Nigeria. But what about the children? This transportation thing, because all of a sudden you will hear educational summits and millions will be spent on some of these things. Shouldn't we be having state governors, commissioners of education, the Ministry of Education come out to say, guys, how do we, you know, navigate this particular period?
Absolutely. Honestly, I think stakeholder engagement is an issue in our nation.
Less than a week to go.
Yes, across board. You know, and we seem to enjoy fire brigade approaches. We just do something, you know, we flip policies and do all sorts. It's important that at this time, everybody should see it as a state of emergency for education.
State of emergency?
Yes, it is a state of emergency because it would affect everything. If we're able to ease the burden for transport for students and learners, it will make a huge difference. So why aren't we calling people together? Why aren't our commissioners rising to the occasion and saying, Mr. Governor, this is what I feel we can do, and we do this quickly? You know, even if we see it in trickles, it's better than nothing. Okay, we have 10 buses in Oshogbo, for instance. You know, it would do a lot, and it will raise the confidence of the people. People will begin to say, oh, our governors are thinking about us. They are helping us to bear this burden. But nothing at all. Everybody is going to fend for themselves. I saw this meme on the social media that we are the adjusters of the world. We know how to adjust to everything, you know. And so the children will start walking, and while they are walking, all kinds of risks, you know, so many things. And then, you know, I am afraid that children will not be able to have the essentials they had before, good feeding, because the money is going to go to fueling. Okay, so what's going to be inside that little child's bag? Maybe one puff and water. Yes, I've seen it happen before, you know. Oh, we have to all cut our coat according to our size. You know, and so everybody would say, so the children's food will be affected. The books, I know what books are costing right now. You know, some books are like 3 times the price from last year, you know. A parent has to choose between, you say, just go and manage. Once I buy your exercise books, you are okay. And then in 4 years' time, you see the quality of graduates learners we are producing.
And that's very important.
It is very serious. And I hope that our leadership will understand that this is serious and we can do something about it.
Yeah, you know, I posited a particular scenario earlier that, you know, because of what is happening, because of the transportation issues, some children might have to trek, you know, long distances more than they would naturally do. You just talk about the risk on the road to commuters and transporters who are angry because hungry. And you know what that does to psyche? They drive anyhow, and you're talking about young ones that do not have the knowledge of how to, you know, behave themselves on the road.
What about kidnapping? Yes, kidnapping for all kinds of horrible purposes, ritual purposes. Yes, you know, you put a child on the road, it's at risk of being kidnapped. And people are desperate in this season. We really must work. We really must do something. and to alleviate the situation.
To alleviate this situation, you spoke about something passively earlier, and there's the start motivation. I'm sure, as our nature as humans, we want more.
Yes.
Definitely, the human needs are insatiable. But now it's not even about nature wanting more. It's about the reality, of what we have on our hands right now. Because of many persons that have been renewing their rent, the cost is coming higher, the price, the transportation, they themselves, they are humans, they have children, either in that same school or in other schools as well. So how will you do that right now? Because for many persons, they expect something significantly higher.
Absolutely.
These are the issues.
I just got a text from one of my very good members of staff to say that, yes, we heard that you're going to do a general increment, but I want to feel that mine should be substantially done, and I looked at the message, I smiled. Yes, she has every right to ask. That's the truth of the matter, because realities surround her. Rent, transport, this, that, So I look
feeding.
Feeding is such, every time I go to the market, I keep getting amazed. I've not stopped being amazed by, you mean this thing is how hard this again? You mean this is how this again? So when I think about that, I think about the person who is under my, in my employment, and how will they survive? How will they cope? What have I been doing? I've been appealing to them. Please bear with us. We're going to do it the best that we can.
Because a motivated staff member
is
only the person that can deliver whatever you are offering.
Precisely. And they don't want to hear your English, in quotes.
No, bills doesn't answer to English.
So I have to speak the English and also be emotionally intelligent enough to tell them, can I understand what you're going through? I will see what I can do to assist. Maybe transport some of you from one point to the other. I can do that. All right. For you, because you're my staff, and no increments will affect your children's education within my own organization. I can do those little things for them. But the truth is, who's going to pay the bills?
Exactly.
Somebody's going to have to pay, for that, those interventions.
Now, the reason why we got here is because of the hardline policies of the government, in which they have been explaining that it's for the greater good, it's for the greater good, the discontinuation of the payment of the fare subsidy, we can't keep paying as a nation, the money is going to a few hands, and I just are saying 1 year down the line, it seems we are just moving in a circle. The same policy that was said that subsidy is gone, we are hearing in some guys that is still being paid. No, NNPC came out to say, no, it's not subsidy, shortfall. And I just say, what's the meaning? So shortfall and subsidy, is payment being paid? Is payment being made or not? Now, as we round it off, some of these policies that have gotten us here, the floating of the naira, which today a dollar is hovering to a naira is hovering around 1516, depending on who you are asking. The payment subsidy that has gotten us to this part, and we don't even know what's next. Will you be saying some of these policies should be reversed, or how do we even? Because many Nigerians are saying, especially politicians or people in government are saying it is gone, it can never be reversed. But it appears it's not paying us as a people. What will you be suggesting if actually you are to have a one-on-one with Mr. President?
A one-on-one with Mr. President, I would plead that we do not float the naira. I'm not an economist, but from all I have heard,
you're an employer.
I'm an employer.
You're a parent. You're a Nigerian. You have every right.
Floating the naira without any plan in place is highly, we can see the effects. Removing subsidy without any serious plan in place, we can see the effect. So as a layman, I'm only going to plead and say, sir, we were hoping for better. Please, as much as possible, get back to the drawing table and reverse some of these decisions as much as you can. But beyond that, what Nigerians want to see is that government expenditure comes down. If you were Mr. President and I were sitting with you, I would say, sir, in this season, why are we buying a presidential yacht? Why are we buying an Airbus? I don't know which, whatever. Why are we buying a Cadillac that costs so much? Is this necessary? Mr. President, it shows that you are not considering the fact that people are going through a lot of hardship, So government expenditure cutting is key. You can't ask us to tighten our belts. We keep tightening our belts. We are now very slim. You can see Mrs. Omigbodun is very slim. She eats twice a day sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the government keeps spending money on irrelevancies and things that are frivolous. This is the main crux of the matter. Okay, and I don't know what it is about us as Nigerians. We're the happiest people on earth, Wole Soyinka. You know, we keep adjusting and adjusting, and we keep going on. And our leadership keeps doing what they wish with impunity. With the protests that took place the other time. So what has happened from those protests? What are the results that we have gotten from those protests?
Interesting one there. Yeah. Let me take your last shot, and let me tell you, Mrs. Omigbodun, parents are worried. Yes. Many of them are worried. For them, you know, looking at you this morning, or they'll see this clip later, what will you be telling them? And what will you be telling school owners like yourself? 2 in 1.
School owners like myself, education is essential. It's a social service. We have no choice but to keep providing. Otherwise, the future of our children will be in jeopardy. I want to encourage us to keep holding on, keep trying our best to juggle. But more importantly, we want the government to listen to us, to call us to tables for discussions, and let us practically see resolutions instead of just the newspaper announcements, television announcements that, you know, you feel helpless. You feel like you do not know what to do next, the uncertainty. So it's important, engage us in discussions. I keep saying these things. Stakeholder engagement is so critical. It is from stakeholders that you will get ideas, that you will find out the real crux of the matter, and you'll be able to prefer solutions. You know, and then it makes them feel listened to, heard, and seen. But at this point in time, everybody is just doing what they like. They're just groaning at home, groaning on social media. Nothing is coming out of it.
How about parents that are worried?
For parents that are worried, what can I say?
Yeah.
I can only
How do they navigate this period?
I can only encourage them to keep holding on. And I would give an example. When I was younger, we had a situation, and there was a point in time in the country that things were really, really difficult. You know, not like this, so you know, but eventually we were able to come out of the woods. So I want to be optimistic. I want to be positive that we will come out of the woods somehow. But unfortunately, I do not have, you know, the very definite statistics to say, don't worry, in the next 1 month, fuel will come down. I do not have that. So what I would say is for them to be optimistic and not pessimistic at this time, because it will affect everything.
Quickly, let me just add before I let you go. How about the children themselves, the pupils, the students who will be affected?
Yes.
What will you be telling them? Especially as regards education and the challenge.
Children must go to school. You have to go to school. Whether it is challenging or not, education is essential because it will affect who you will become tomorrow. You know, so when you come to school, and if you're, you know, a hungry child, how do you teach a hungry child? That's another story for another day. You know, but as much as possible, we as educational professionals will do our best to encourage you in school, you know, to continue to study, to continue to do your best in school. That's what I can say.
Thank you very much. I'll be speaking with an educationist, a parent, and of course a school owner as well, Mrs. Oyinkansola Omigbodun. Thank you for your time and take.
Thank you so much,
and especially for the hope that you have just given, even when you don't know how it would happen. Let's just stay positive. I will take this quick break right now. When we return, we'll be speaking about the elephant that has fallen in Ijesha land. Stay with us.